The first thing I noticed wasn't the stalled car. It was the look on the faces of the two young women standing beside it in the pouring daytime rain, their soaked clothes clinging to them as dozens of vehicles sped past without slowing down. They weren't waving anymore. They had already lost hope. What happened after I pulled over for just a few minutes changed not only their lives, but mine as well in a way I never could have imagined. If you believe that one small act of kindness can change someone's entire future, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Every story shared in our community reminds us that compassion still exists in this world. Graham Mercer had spent most of his life fixing things that other people gave up on. At 34, he owned a small roadside repair garage on the edge of a quiet English town. Business was never spectacular, but it was enough to pay the bills and take care of his aging grandmother, the woman who had raised him after he lost both of his parents as a child. She had always taught him that character was measured not by how people treated those who could help them, but by how they treated complete strangers who had nothing to offer in return. Those words had become the quiet foundation of Graham's life. Every morning, before opening his garage, he reminded himself that someone out there might simply need another human being willing to stop. That rainy afternoon, despite the gray clouds, it was still broad daylight. Graham had finished delivering replacement parts to a nearby village when he noticed a compact silver hatchback stranded on the shoulder of a country road. Hazard lights flashed weakly as rainwater streamed across the windshield. Two young women stood beside the vehicle, completely drenched, looking exhausted rather than frightened. Several cars passed them without slowing. Some drivers glanced over for only a second before disappearing into the distance. Without hesitation, Graham pulled over. The older of the two women introduced herself as Meredith Clark, while the younger smiled politely despite obvious stress and explained that her name was Tessa Whitmore. They had been driving to visit their grandfather, who had recently been discharged from the hospital after heart surgery. Their phone batteries were nearly dead, roadside assistance estimated a 3-hour wait because of the weather, and they feared arriving too late for the family gathering organized to celebrate his recovery. Graham lifted the hood and immediately noticed that a damaged serpentine belt had slipped loose after a worn tensioner failed. It wasn't a repair most drivers could make on the roadside, but years of experience allowed him to improvise using spare parts he carried in his service van. Rain soaked his jacket as he worked carefully, his hands covered in grease and cold water. Meredith repeatedly apologized for inconveniencing him, while Tessa quietly offered him a towel she had managed to keep mostly dry inside the car. Graham smiled, declined the towel until the repair was finished, and continued working without asking for anything in return. Nearly 40 minutes later, the engine started smoothly. Relief spread across both sisters' faces so suddenly that it almost seemed unreal. For the first time that afternoon, they laughed. It was the kind of laughter that comes only after genuine fear has finally disappeared. They tried insisting that Graham accept far more money than the repair was worth, but he accepted only enough to cover the replacement part.